Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's a great crowd. There are a lot of people, over 20,000 people couldn't get in, and we didn't need anybody to get the people here. We didn't need a star. We didn't need a star. We didn't need some entertainer to fill it up. And then she goes on last night. In about 6 minutes, everyone was leaving. They were pouring out. We don't need that. We've got our star. You know who the star is? All of you people are the star. You're the star. And I mean that. Hello, Harrisburg. A very special hello to Pennsylvania. I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful Commonwealth with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. Thank you very much. As you know, this is my first return to Pennsylvania since our rally in Butler. We're going back to Butler, too, by the way. People said to me, "Are you serious?" I said, "I'm serious. We're going back." It's a great place. 18 days ago, where we had a very terrible day. We had a rough day, I will tell you, by all accounts. I should not be with you today. I shouldn't be with you. But I am. I want to thank all of the people of Pennsylvania for their extraordinary love and support. It is incredible. We're going to win this thing so big. We're going to win it big, including everyone at Butler Memorial Hospital. They were fantastic. Wow. Wow. They saw some pretty bad things. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, they did an amazing job. And we have, by the way, we have the doctor, one of the great doctors was there. He worked on Corey, actually. Corey had a hard time. Corey is special. Thank you, doctor. Appreciate it very much. Great doctors, The job they did on David Dutch and James Copenhaver was just incredible. And as you know, they brought him back from very, very seriously wounded. They were going to be maybe not with us. It was a group of us, but they are doing really well now. They're making it. They're going to be fine. Not going to be perfect, maybe, but who is? Who is? As we get older, who is perfect? But the doctors were so great. They had two great doctors also. And most of all, we lift our memory to the brave firefighter who was so cruelly taken from us, Corey Comparator. A very brave guy, loved by his family and his friends. He was really loved. In his last act on this earth, Corey threw himself over his wife and daughters and died, shielding them from the bullets of a very disturbed guy. Corey is a hero to all of us, I want to thank a friend of mine, too. I'm not going to mention his name because he's pretty well known. And he came up to me, he said, would it be okay if I presented Corey's wife and family with a check? And I said, yeah, it would be okay with me. It's certainly okay. And he handed me a check for $1 million. $1 million. Think of that. Thank you, Dan. So he was very generous. In addition, we have a GoFundMe that's, it's really been great. I think we're at $6 million mark for the three of them, plus some other people. So, but you know what? Corey's wife said, I'd rather have my husband. Isn't that good? I know a lot of wives that would not say that. I'm sorry. They would not say that. But no, it's a great family. He was a great man. He was a brave man. He saw what was happening and he jumped on top and he got hit. But we will carry Corey's spirit of love and devotion and patriotism with us for all time. And We will never forget Corey or his beautiful family. And maybe let's have a brief moment of silence in memory of Corey, great Pennsylvanian. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Beautiful. Beautiful. That is the most quiet I have ever heard an arena. I have never heard, you could hear a pin drop. No, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. In the wake of this heinous attack, we gather tonight more determined than ever. Our resolve is unbroken and our will is undeterred. Nothing will stop us on our mission to make America great again. Nothing's going to stop us. Our country is doing badly. Front row Joe's over here. Front row Joe's, look at them. They've been to 212 events. You know, I'm pretty sure we have their vote. I'm not sure. You can never be sure of anything. You're voting for Trump. Okay, front row Joe's. They love us and we love them. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. But as we're fighting to bring back the American dream for you and your family, the radical left Democrat Party bosses have installed a puppet candidate to fight only for themselves. Kamala Harris got 0 votes. She's totally scripted, owned, and controlled by the donors and the power brokers who created her campaign and who rip off our government and make billions and billions of dollars. They want to call them up and they want to deal with her. And I didn't deal like that. I never dealt like that. I didn't need the money. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I told a lot of guys that I like and some guys that I don't like, but very rich people, I just can't do that. I can't do it. They want to do the telephone systems. They want to do lots of little things like that. We'd like to take over the telephone system of the United States. I'm sorry, I can't do that. But unlike her, I cannot be bought and I cannot be controlled. I have no interest in that. My only loyalty is to you, the people. And you know that. Well, I could have had such a nice, easy life. I could be at a nice place right now, relaxing, watching the waves break in. But I'd rather be right here in Harrisburg with you. People that built our country. You're the people that built our country. I mean, some people don't like saying that, but you are indeed the people that built the country. We have, no matter where we go, we have the most incredible people. After lying to the country for years about Joe Biden's mental and physical condition, Kamala is now being given a personality makeover. Don't forget, 4 weeks ago, she was like considered the worst. Not smart, terrible, the worst vice president in history. He's the worst president we've ever had. But they were considered terrible. And all of a sudden, she's the new Margaret Thatcher. That happened, right? The great Margaret Thatcher. No, I don't think so. But you're gonna learn little things like defund the police. That doesn't work, does it, huh? You're gonna learn. Because everything about Kamala Harris rollout, it's phony and it's fake. Did you see when President Obama and Michelle called? Did you see? Hello? Hello? Yes. Yes. Who is this? Oh, this is Michelle and Barack. Oh. So surprised to hear. They got 4 cameras in front. Oh, I'm so surprised. It's on speakerphone. Listen, we just want to congratulate you on destroying Joe Biden. I mean, on winning the... Hey, is Joe Biden was that the phoniest phone call you've ever seen? How do you think, Dan? What do you think? Dan Muser, great congressman. What do you think? Was that a phony phone call? You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't get away. In your district, you wouldn't get away with it, would you? But she's a defund the police radical trying to pass herself off as a tough on crime prosecutor. She wasn't tough on crime. She's only tough on guys like me because they want to go after their political opponents. And we won the big case in Florida. Did you see? We won it. And he had a similar case, but it was much worse, and he didn't have the Presidential Records Act. He had a similar case, and you know, the special counsel, which is basically special prosecutor, adjudged him to be essentially mentally incompetent, with poor memory, but a nice old guy. He's not old. You know, 81 is not old. I have friends that are 95 that are still. Bernie Marcus, founder of Home Depot, 95 years old, still sharp, still sharp. I spoke to him the other day. I said, I think you're smarter now than you were 30 years ago. I don't know what's going on. I said, what's going on? It's working every 81 is not old. And but he's different. He's a bad 81. He's a bad 81. And he's destroying our country, I'll tell you. And she's worse than he is. She is actually worse than he is because she's a real radical left. He's a phony radical left. He didn't believe this stuff. He didn't believe in open borders, and she does. She wants to open your borders. She wants to have all electric cars. She loves the all electric car mandate. She destroyed San Francisco. But she's the architect of the border invasion, trying to pretend she's strong on border security. She's now pretending that she was never called the border czar. She was called the border czar the first day. She's the border czar. And she never went. She actually went, you know, they say, they fact check me. Anything I say is like a little. She actually went to a beautiful part of the border. I would love to take my First Lady wife there to have dinner. It's beautiful, very safe. No, she didn't go to the real border, did she, Front Row Joe? She went to a nice little place, was there for a short period of time and left. So she's never really been to the border, and she's the border czar, and our country's being invaded with people from prisons and people from mental institutions and terrorists. She's a failed vice president leading a failed administration while trying to convince you that she represents hope and change. Well, she does represent change. She wants to turn us into a communist country. That's her change. She was voted the most unpopular vice president in history. That's hard for a vice president to be that unpopular, right? Just like Biden will go down as the single worst president in the history of our nation. The happiest man is Jimmy Carter. He's an old guy right now. He's an old guy, but he's happy because his administration is considered brilliant by comparison to this disaster that we have right now. In her speech in Atlanta last night, Kamala Harris even tried to outbrand a new Southern accent. Did you hear a new accent? If I ever did that, all of those people back there, look at them, look at all those cameras. Oh, when I go through hell, I'd have a week of hell if I ever tried to do that. The contrast could not be more stark. On the one hand, you have a radical left puppet candidate who is fake. And on the other hand, you have a president who will fight for America. This is a hell of a big arena. How many seats is this? Looks like Madison Square Garden. This is a big, beautiful place. Wow. I didn't care. Although they'd prefer that we be in an arena. I don't know why. But we're not giving up the outdoor rallies. You know, all those people that we had to turn away today at an outdoor rally, we had 107,000 people show up in New Jersey. 107,000. But you know, in the South Bronx, we had 25,000 people. It was like a love fest. South Bronx, tough place, but it was a lot of love. No matter how much Kamala Harris tries to change her image, she cannot change this fact. She is the most extreme liberal candidate in the history of our country by far. She's an extreme radical left lunatic. And you know, I've been saying for the last 6 months, I've been saying about politicians, because I really know politicians. Well, I've dealt with them on both sides. And, you know, then I said, let's do this, you know, thank you. But when a politician comes out early on with an idea like she wants to defund the police and all these other things she wants to do, really bad things, that's where they're at. They're going to be there eventually, right? Mike Kelly, stand up, Mike, will you please? This guy, he used to stand up. He's my friend. He endorsed me on day one, right? Day one. Day one. He endorsed me before I was running. He said, that guy's got to run. I endorsed him. I didn't even run. How many endorsements do I have? Well, you got Kelly of Pennsylvania. I wasn't running. Anyway, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. He would stand out at those outdoor rallies when it was 10 degrees below zero and it was 97 degrees out without a shirt on. It's not that pretty a sight. Not that pretty, but he had no fear. He's a tough guy and they love him. They love you in this state. Kamala Harris co-sponsored Bernie Sanders' $32 trillion socialist takeover of the entire U.S. health care system. Think of this, U.S. health care, it would mean that we're gonna have to raise your taxes, bankrupt our country, and she supported outlawing all of the private health insurance. A lot of people in this room have some people want private health. Some of it's incredible. You go to these companies, they're doing an incredible job. They want to be able to, she wants that banned and she wants that outlawed. You can't buy that anymore. You're paying for it, but it's great stuff. I mean, some of the companies have unbelievable, the golden plans and all that. And she wants it to be ended. She pledged to give free taxpayer-funded health care to all illegal aliens. Think of that. Oh, and she'll do that, which will totally destroy our social security system. She sponsored a bill to give illegal aliens taxpayer-funded lawyers so they could sue us. And she called for abolishing ICE. These are unbelievable patriots, by the way. They're almost as tough as our congressman sitting in the front. They're almost as tough as the man that's going to be your next governor, by the way. He's tough, too. He's tough. He's a great military hero. And he'll come up. I'm allowed to have him up for a little while, right? Just a couple of minutes, right? He's great. He's great. And I hear you're doing very well. But you get ready. You get ready. You got to knock them dead. She compared ICE agents to members of the KKK. She likened Border Patrol agents to practitioners of human slavery. We have a lot of those great people here tonight, like Brandon Judd, the head of the union, Paul. We have so many different people. And they didn't like that analogy too much. She voted in favor of deadly sanctuary cities numerous times. She supports open borders. That's all you'd have to hear. I think 2 words. You know, they say, sure, go down a list. We have a list of 25 things. All you really have to say is 2 things. Open borders, defund the police. The rest is all, but, you know, although she is going to kill Social Security, because by putting all of these illegal aliens into Social Security, it's dead. It's dead. She opposes even saying the words illegal alien and radical Islamic terrorists. She backs mass amnesty, and citizenship for all illegals. She supports mandatory gun confiscation. Would anybody mind, Mr. Congressman, would they mind having their guns ripped out of their arms as they enter their house or their apartment? I don't think so. I don't think. She said that 70 to 80% tax rate is, quote, a very bold idea, something that we have to discuss very seriously. She likes it. And you know, all my life I watched politicians and they've always said, we will reduce your taxes, we will reduce your taxes, we will cut your taxes. They want to give you a tax increase of 5 times what you're paying now. How the hell do you get elected? This country is so screwed up. Everything's backwards. We want open border, we want taxing. How do you like to be a politician? We want open borders, We want tax increases. We want all electric cars so that you can go 15 minutes before you charge it up. And for all the congressmen that are here, in the Midwest, they built 8 charging stations. Now, you know what that is? That's like a gas pump with electricity coming out. Just a charging terminal. It cost $9 billion. Did you hear that, Mike? Did you hear that? Scott, oh, yes, he's another tough. We got tough congressmen here. These are tough cookies, these Pennsylvania guys. Wow, look at that. We're going to introduce them in a second. Scott. So they spent $9 billion on 8 charging stations, 2 of which never worked. I don't think any of them worked. She wants government intervention to slash consumption of red meat. They don't want red meat. That means they don't want your cows. Get rid of your cows. Would anybody like to keep red meat? Raise your hand. You know, think of it. Borders and electric mandate and all the things. Red meat. Oh, how the hell do you get elected, right? You know how they got elected? By cheating. They get elected by cheating. Because they want to raise your taxes by 5 times. Oh, please vote for me. I'm going to raise your taxes 5 times higher. But the red meat is to fight climate change, okay? Climate change. She supports ending cash bail to immediately release criminals upon arrest. They kill somebody, no bail, don't worry about it, no cash. You know, you just killed 3 people, no. Let's let them out in Harrisburg. It's a wonderful place. And in 2020, she personally urged her followers to donate money to bail out the violent rioters, get them right out of jail, including murderers. You know what that was all about, right? In Minnesota, which I think we have a good chance of winning. Hasn't been won since 1972 by a Republican. And we're leading. Tom Emmer's going to bring that one home, they tell me. He's going to bring it home. This November, the American people are going to reject Kamala Harris's dangerous liberal extremism in a massive landslide. We're going to, too big to rig, right? Too big to rig. Too big to rig. We're not going to let her turn the United States into a communist San Francisco colony. We're not going to let it happen. That's what they want to do. They want to destroy our country. She's the worst. She was a bad DA long before you had your DA, long before you had some of these DAs that you have, as you know, in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, but in Los Angeles, all over the place, all over the place. You have bad DAs, you have radical left, horrible DAs that are funded by Soros and others, and they're weak. They're just weak on crime. They don't mind if somebody murders somebody. They don't want them to go to jail. You can kill somebody now. Our country is sick. The mindset of our country is sick. And we're not going to let her do to Pennsylvania what she did to California. She destroyed San Francisco, one of the best cities in the world, and it's in tatters. So she's a liberal from California. She ruined the state. She ruined this one of the greatest cities in the world. You know, 15 years ago, a great friend of mine, Bob Tisch, great guy, who's an owner of the New York Giants, and a very smart guy, wonderful guy too. Maybe even longer, a little longer than 50. He said San Francisco is the best city in our country. And today it's a disaster, just a disaster. He passed away quite a while ago, and he would look down and say, what the hell happened to that city? But he thought San Francisco was one of the greats. He thought Chicago was one of the greats. You know, Chicago on July 4th weekend had 117 shootings and 17 people died. Think of it. This is not even believable. When you hear about Afghanistan and the horrible job that this president did with Afghanistan, a low point, but they don't have anything like that. In one of the most astoundingly phony moments in her speech last night, Kamala Harris bragged that, quote, I will proudly put my record against Donald Trump's any day of the week. I will put it against Donald Trump. This got one of the worst records in anywhere. Well, Kamala, let's go. Challenge accepted. Are you ready? Let's compare our record point by point. I can't believe I'm doing it. You know, the weird thing, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about Biden. I didn't even know her name. Nobody did. Kamala. Hello. Beautiful. I didn't even know her name. Kamala. I heard she was a rotten border czar. That's about all I knew about her. Her only job was the border, and she never went there. But 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was all about Biden. Then I kept hearing they were going to steal it from him, and I said, you know, it's hard to do because I understand when you have the delegates. He had all the delegates. He had 100% of the delegates. He had 14 million votes. I said, you can't really do it. But then they threatened him very strongly. They said, you're incompetent, and we're going to get you out. He just won, you know. No, they happened to be right. He was incompetent, but these are minor details. No, he just won. He had all the votes. And he could have said no, but he was afraid. And he's an angry man right now. Here's the big question I have. Will he be invited to the Democrat National Convention? Will he be invited, Mr. Congressman? I don't know. Now he will because I'm mentioning it. If I didn't mention it, he would not be invited. But now they have to invite him. But you know what's crazy, the craziest thing? So you don't mind if I go off teleprompter all the time. It's such a shame. I have these great speechwriters. They really are. Ross and Vince, they're great. They're the best speechwriters. And I hardly speak about this, but I could read the most gorgeous speech, but you may be bored to tears. No, they're beautiful. The words are beautiful. Everything's great. The sun will rise. The moon will set. The oceans will glisten. I say, that's beautiful, but I'm not sure that Harrisburg wants to hear that stuff. What do you think, Congressman? What do you think? Doctor, I don't think so. No, they are great, but I tend to go off about 75% of the time. But you know, the hard part is that 3-4 weeks ago, I was talking about Biden. He's incompetent. He's a horrible president. He's the worst president in the history of the country. Now I say she's the worst vice president, which is true. She's considered the worst. She's the most unpopular vice president in the history of the country. She did a transformation. You know, the press is very corrupt. You know that. They gave her a transformation like Houdini. That was a Houdini-like, that was a magic trick. But don't worry, she's going to fall because it's not about him or her, it's about the policies. They're the same and they're horrible, right? But they gave her, so, you know, it's sort of like, I don't know if anybody watch UFC as an example. Do you watch it, right? Dana White, the great Dana White. Did you see him? He introduced me the other day at our convention. We had the greatest convention in the history of politics, in my opinion. Thank you, Milwaukee and Wisconsin. And the arena was beautiful. It was an unbelievable. But Dana White introduced me, and he heads up UFC. He's done an incredible job. But it's almost like you're having a fight between two guys, and one guy is getting beat up bad. Then he goes to a debate, right? The debate didn't work out too well. How did the debate work out for him? I don't think so good, Scott. The debate didn't work out exactly good. Then he tried to recover from the debate by going out every day, and it got worse and worse. It was a basic disaster. But it's like having two fighters, and the one guy's getting beat up really badly, and they say, all right, stop the fight. Come on out. I'll put a new one in. That's what we have here. Kamala is the new fighter. Who cares? Under my leadership, we achieved the most secure border in U.S. history. You know that because you didn't have people sleeping on your lawn all night. We ended catch and release. We stopped asylum, fraud, coal. We got remain in Mexico. Remember that one? You think that was easy to get? I call up the president of Mexico, a friend of mine. He's a socialist, but still he was a friend of mine. He gave us many, many thousands of troops to guard our border while we were building the wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, and then they didn't want to finish it up, which could have taken place very quickly. But think of it. But, you know, we got remain, think of it, remain in Mexico. That means you can't come into our country. You have to remain in Mexico until you get approved, of which very few people got approved. You think that was easy? That wasn't easy. Negotiated historic safe third agreements, which are complex. I won't waste your time, but they were great. With Central American nations, built 571 miles. Think of that, a border wall. We're going to add another 200, far more than I said I was going to build. And it was working. It was working. It was good. We had the best illegal immigration non-flow, I call it. They were having a hard time. Also, drugs were way down. Human trafficking was way down. It's human trafficking in women mostly. You know, it sounds ancient, human trafficking. It sounds like something from 1,000 years ago, but it's as big a business in a sense as the drug business. And the reason is because of the internet. The internet made human trafficking a very, very big and horrible business. They traffic in women. They put them in the trunk of a car. They put them in the back seat and they close it up and you can't even breathe. And they bring them across the border. We had knocked it down cold, and now it's at a level 5 times greater than it ever was before. Nobody's there to check. Nobody's to look at the car. Nobody knows who's there, who's in it. But you can see it on a certain chart that I have. You know, this chart saved my life. Where is that chart? I love that chart. I'm going to sleep with that chart for the rest of my life, that chart. That chart. You know, the amazing thing, you know, the people that operate the computers and all the brilliant equipment we have backstage, she said to me, she's great, she's great. She should come out. Just tell her to come out here for a second. Quick, 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 quick. You got to get her out. She's never done this before. She saved my life, in a sense. I said, you saved my life. Here she is. Wow. Whoa.
Hi.
No, she's a computer genius. She saved my life. No. So, you know, the story is, but that chart, I only use it probably less than 20% of the time. So in other words, we do the rallies and stuff. Sometimes I'll pull it down, sometimes I won't, because I do things a little bit at random while I'm up here. Hello, look at a big fella back there. But I do things a little bit at random. But two things about the chart. It's always on my left, which means I'm gone. It's always on my left. If it was on my left, I have Mr. Governor, Mr. Future Governor. I have no chance because it would have been perfect hit. And it's only used a little bit. And I always use it at the end of a speech. I never used it early. In fact, she was saying today, we were really sort of flabbergasted because you called for it at the very beginning of your speech. And that chart, I'm so proud of it. Now I like it much more than I liked it before. But see the arrow on the bottom? That's the lowest level of illegal immigration in the history of our country recorded. And that was the last week of my presidency, Mike. So that was the last week. And look what happened to our country after that. And those are now a little bit old, because if you look on the right, it's a little bit old. Those numbers are much higher. They right now would go off the ceiling. And that's what happened to our country in a short period of time, 3.5 years. But look at that number and look at that arrow. So anyway, much more importantly right now, I say, I'm talking about illegal immigration. I said, you know what? Pull up the chart. Pull it up. And they weren't ready but they're so good. And I said, wow, that was so quick. There's nobody over here except for this lunatic. And because the crowd was massive, as far as the eye could see, I mean, that's why I love those outdoor sites, because you don't have to send 20,000 people back home. And I hate to do that. They come out and they want to get in, and then you get the seats. Would anybody like to give up your seat? I thought you were nicer people than that in Pennsylvania. Anyway, so I say chart, and I go like this in the chart. So a couple of things. She told me today, she said, you know, the amazing thing is you always call for the chart at the end of the speech, not the beginning. So that was one factor. That's crazy. It's always on your left, not your right. It happened to be on the right this time. I don't think I've ever seen it on the right. and various other things. And if I'm here, it's over. If I'm here, it's no good. I had to be exactly, because he was exactly where that very beautiful woman in the white is, right? Stand up. That's exactly. And my son said, that's not a long distance, 100. I don't know so much about shooting, other than I'm very good for the Second Amendment, I can tell you. But I don't know so much about shooting. But I know about golf. Foot putt, Dad. That would be the equivalent, is that right? He actually said might be less than that, because some people can't sink a 2-foot putt, like Biden. Hi, Biden. Biden can't. But that's like sinking. Did anybody see the Bryson DeChambeau thing? Did you? That was cool. We had a good time. He's a great guy, great young athlete. So all these things, and then you feel, what are these that happened, right? We just really exactly, you hadn't made the full turn. But that chart will always be my world's most favorite chart for a lot of reasons. Number one is that day in Butler, Pennsylvania. And number two is, look at those numbers. That was the lowest number of illegal aliens that we've ever had. So it really was a very important, that was a very important thing. It was done by Border Patrol. Now let's examine the record of border czar Harris. She inherited the strongest border in U.S. history and immediately turned it into the worst border nightmare in the history of the world. There's no country in the world that's ever had a border like this. I think the real number is 20 million people, maybe more. Nobody knows. You have a thing called gotaways. We have millions of gotaways, meaning people that weren't caught, they got away. Upon taking office, Harris and Biden stopped wall construction, halted all deportations, protected sanctuary cities, ended remain in Mexico and our asylum cooperation agreements, which are very important, and allowed a gigantic invasion of our country, bringing in millions and millions of illegal aliens at levels never seen before. Now, actually, other than that, I thought she's doing a very good job, right? She's done a wonderful job. She's the worst ever. And she's going to be your president. She will destroy our country. This November, the American people are going to compare these records, and they're going to tell Border Czar Harris, you have done a horrible job. You're a disgrace to our country. You're fired. Get out of here. You're fired. Get out. Get the hell out of here. But Kamala is protected by the fake news. They're trying to delete everything she said. Hey, did you ever see the Unselect Committee? The Unselect Committee on January 6th, did you see where they went and deleted and destroyed all evidence? It was deleted and destroyed. So I think, Dan, you and all of my friends here, they should be indicted for that. They destroyed evidence. You know why? Because the evidence showed that we were innocent. The evidence showed that Nancy Pelosi should have had the Capitol, that all these stories were fake, including me wanting to grab a big, strong Secret Service agent around the neck. Think of this. Think of this. I'm in a car. I say, fellas, I'd love to go down to the Capitol. Sir, we don't think, you're very exposed. Oh, that's okay. I said, you don't think we could? No. So I said, all right, where do you want to go? They'll go back to the White House. That's the experience. This one person had me getting extremely upset. I don't get upset. When somebody smart says, sir, you're probably better. And nothing was happening. It was just people were walking down, remember, patriotically, right? Right? So they had me coming on the back of the car. Now, these guys are very strong. They're young and strong. Not as strong as me, but they're strong. And I grabbed the one guy driving, and he's got arms like this. I am. And I was buff. And then I went, that's all I know, but I know him well. He's a good guy. And I grabbed him around the neck. And I began to twist and turn. And he was in tremendous pain because of the power of Trump. Tremendous pain. And then I went back to the White House and I started throwing hamburgers at the wall. This is the story this person told. So they went to the Secret Service. They found out it was all bullshit. Everything. All made up. It was just made up. Which most people, I mean, honestly, most people would think that. You know, think of me grabbing these two strong, tough guys. That's what they do. The one guy said, you know, if somebody ever put their arms around me, he's trained automatic go with your strength. I'd like to run the country better. That's what I'd like to do, you know. So they're good with the finger. They're good with their fingers into the eye. The fingers into the eye, and you have a tendency to immediately let go and get a towel and start crying because it hurts. They say, oh, that hurts. No, it was all made up stuff, you know. It was all made up stuff. But wouldn't you think it is? I mean, who would believe Trump was so angry he grabbed the one guy who was rebuffed. Then he grabbed the other one around the neck. These people are sick. Who would believe it? But probably some people do, even if it's 5 people. But no, but some people would believe it. You know, they hear it. They deleted everything because the stories turned out to be false. They deleted everything. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 troops or National Guard. If we had 500, you wouldn't have had a problem. And what you never see is the crowd. The crowd was, it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And a small portion walked peacefully and patriotically down to the Capitol. You remember the term? Peacefully and patriotically. He's horrible. It's insurrection. You know, if you have an insurrection, you don't say peacefully and patriotically, right, Mike? You say, let's go. No, these are really bad people. These are crooked people. And then her daughter, you saw that about a month ago, her daughter taped her saying that it was her fault the day. Their daughter is a cinematographer. I'm sure Nancy's thrilled. They just released a tape where Nancy is saying, this is my fault. This is during the thing because she didn't accept my offer. She said, this is my fault. I could have stopped this. Now she's trying to say, well, she didn't really mean that. No, these are bad people. They're trying to delete everything that she said over the last, think of this on Kamala, it's no difference. Over the last 10 years, controversial or bad, it's like defund the police, the fact that she was given authority over the border, that, you know, they're trying to say that under no circumstances was she even in charge of the border. And the fake news is trying to delete everything. Are you seeing what's going on? They're trying to delete everything. But you know, it's a wonderful, the internet is wonderful in certain ways. We have every single copy of every article, but they're trying to delete it. Under crazy Kamala's policies, you know, when I got hit, everybody thought I was going to be a nice guy. And they thought I changed. Remember, just before the Republican convention. And nobody thought I'd be there. You know, it's not great to be there when your ear is slightly throbbing. Let's go to the convention, darling, to the First Lady. Let's go. But I got there. Next day I left, right? And it was the greatest convention. And it was like a convention like no other. It was a convention that we were all so proud of. But they all said, Trump is going to be a nice man now. He came close to death. And I really agreed with that for about 8 hours or so. And then I realized they were trying to put me in prison for doing absolutely nothing wrong. They went to judges who are crooked judges. They went to judges who are fake. They had prosecutors who are Democrat radical lefts, and always in areas where it's like 3% Republican or less. And I said, you know, these are bad people. So I was nice for about, what would you say, Dan, 3, 4, 5 hours. And then I said, these are bad people. We have to win this battle. And you know what? They're going to become nicer when we win. But we're going to have to win, I believe, to make them reasonable because they are crazy. They are crazy. Under Kamala's policies, criminals, rapists, and vicious gang members are pouring in from South America, Asia, Africa, the Middle East, from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, and insane asylum. You know, an insane asylum is a step above, right? This is, oh, they go crazy when they want to try and say, he's cognitively impaired. You know, I stand up here for 2 hours and I speak without a mistake. But when I say Hannibal Lecter, they say, why does he keep mentioning it? Because Hannibal Lecter was a serious psycho, right? He was Silence of the Lambs. Dr. Hannibal Lecter, he'd like to have you for dinner. See the man with the wall? Stand up. Look at this guy. He's here so much. He's great. He's great. He's a Trump voter. I don't think we have to worry about him, do we? He's a Trump voter all the way. But Hannibal Lecter would like to have you for dinner. But these people are now in our country, and they always, you know, actually it's quite clever, I think, but you know, what do you do? But they're always saying, like, he mentions Hannibal Lecter. It doesn't make sense. So it makes a lot of sense. They're coming into our country, and they're coming in from insane asylums, which are closing all over the world. It's not just South America, because we have the worst people representing our country. They laugh at the stupidity of these people all over the world. They're coming from the Congo in Africa, 22 prisoners right out of prisons from the Congo in Africa, not just South America. Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up. How about where they say our crime rate's going down? We just had 117 people shot. You could take just Chicago and the whole nation's crime rate. Look, these are bad people. They're phony people. They're liars. They cheat on elections. They do a lot of bad things. And we have to win this election because crime statistics are a disaster. They're made up by people that work in the White House. And obviously the crime is getting worse because we have probably 20 million people in our country right now. And every single day you read about one of these horrible monsters from parts unknown who raped a young girl, killed her, cut him up, uses knives, not guns, because it's a slower death. These are monsters, and we have them in our country, and we're going to deport them at a level like nobody's ever seen. We're going to get them the hell out of our country. They're going back to the country from which they came. Because we have become a dumping ground for the world, and we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to get rid of these liberal lunatics like Kamala. Just yesterday, it was reported that more than 1,000 members of the savage Venezuelan gang, Trendy Arguay, are plotting to conduct ambush attacks on police and law enforcement in the United States. All the while, Harris and Biden sit in the White House and try and figure out who's dumber. They sit in the White House. Think of it, massive numbers of Venezuelan gang members. Now, Venezuela is very smart. They sent them into our country. And then you read that crime is down 72% in Venezuela, which it is. On Sunday, in a separate incident, a Venezuelan illegal alien criminal let in the border by our border czar, Harris, shot a female police officer in Texas. You read about it. Multiple times with a rifle. Thankfully, the officer is perhaps going to survive. They don't know yet, but probably. But most victims are not so lucky. In Texas last month, 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari was tied up, sexually assaulted, and strangled to death by two illegal aliens who Biden and Harris released into the United States. If Border Czar Harris stays in charge, every single week will bring never-ending streams of illegal alien rapists, bloodthirsty killers, and child predators to go after our sons and our daughters and our wives and our husbands. They're letting horrible people into our country. They're poisoning our country. By contrast, if I am elected on day one, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history. And we will immediately deport all of the criminals that Border Czar Harris has allowed to enter our country. They'll be deported. But no comparison of our immigration records would be complete without considering the terrorists that this crazy border czar of ours is letting into America. By the way, can anybody imagine her as, in all fairness, we want to be politically correct and all that, great, who cares? Can anybody imagine her dealing with President Xi of China, who's a fierce individual, fierce person? You know, she was sent to deal with Putin to keep him from invading Ukraine, which, by the way, he would have never done if I were president. Israel wouldn't have been attacked. He would not have attacked Ukraine. The recent hits on Israel wouldn't have taken place. We wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had that horrible disaster in Afghanistan. None of these things would have happened. We would be respected again. Now we're laughed at. All over the world, they're laughing at us. When I was president, terror watch list encounters at the border reached 1 year, and I don't believe it. It was done by Border Patrol and ICE. They have 1 year where it was zero. They said, and I don't even believe that myself, but you know what? I'll take it. Because the charts are usually the other way. Zero. And then after, and it was part of that we just looked at, but we had zero terrorists reported coming in 2019, I believe the year was 2019. Zero. So let's say it was 10 or 20. Now it's thousands of people coming in. I never believed the zero, but I'll tell you, we'll take it. But assuming it was 10, 15, 20, thousands and thousands of terrorists are pouring into our country under Kamala Harris. Thousands of terrorists have been let right in. And according to news reports, the Biden-Harris administration has absolutely no idea who they are or where the hell they come from. Just come on into our country. But you're going to be finding this out. You're going to have to be, you're going to have a migrant crime statistic that's going to rival anything that we've ever had. And the only thing good about these people, they're very tough people. They come out of those jails and those prisons and those mental institutions. The only thing that is really good about them is they make our criminals look like very nice people. It's true. Our criminals that we used to fear, we don't fear anymore, doctor. They're like nice people compared to the people that are coming into our country. No candidate who would knowingly keep the border open as terrorists pour across it can ever be trusted to be commander-in-chief. You can't do it. Can't let it happen. If she becomes your president, and I think worse than Biden, and he's gone, he's shot. But if she becomes your president, our country is finished. I'll tell you. In Pennsylvania, your beautiful Commonwealth, it's always good when you remember it's a Commonwealth. He would call it a state often. Remember when Biden I used to love this guy because you were on pins and needles watching him speak. You know, when's he going to blow it? And it would always happen. Remember, he'd finished the speech and he couldn't find the stair. Go. And then these handsome men would run up and grab him and help him. And every time I imitate it, the First Lady tells me, why do you keep doing that? Because they keep saying you can't find the stairs off the platform. You know, you've only got about 9 stairways off the podium. But unlike Kamala Harris, I will keep radical Islamic terror in our country. We're going to get them out. We're going to be safe. Fact is, 4 years ago, we were respected like never before. I would say like never before. We were respected by China, by Iran. Look at Iran. Iran is going wild now, aren't they? You know, Iran was broke when I was president. They didn't have money to give to Hamas. They didn't have money to give to Hezbollah. You see what's going on now with Hezbollah now. You're going to end up in a world war. You're going to end up in a third world war pretty soon with this guy between Ukraine and Russia and the stupidity with. I will get that negotiated and ended before I ever take office. I'll do it after the election as president-elect. In addition to her